When I was just a teenager, I found myself thrust into the spotlight, crowned Miss World and suddenly known to millions. It should have felt like a dream, but deep down I was confused. I was still figuring out who I was, what I stood for, and what I wanted from life. And before I could truly answer any of those questions for myself, the world had already started answering them for me. They decided I was beautiful, so I should smile more. They decided I was Indian, so I should stay in Bollywood. They decided I was a woman, so I should be polite, agreeable, and never too ambitious. And for a while I tried to be all those things, until I realized how exhausting and empty it felt to live a life designed by everyone else. You see, the world has a way of labeling us the moment we step outside. You're too loud, you're too quiet, you're too ambitious, you're not ambitious enough. If you're successful, they say you're lucky. If you fail, they say they expected it. If you don't know who you are in the middle of all this noise, you'll start believing those labels. You'll start shrinking yourself to fit in. And the truth is, the world is more comfortable with you playing small. It's easier to manage a version of you that doesn't ask hard questions, take bold risks, or challenge the status quo. But here's what I've learned. The most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. If you don't get to know yourself, your values, your passions, your strengths, your weaknesses, how can you expect anyone else to truly understand or respect you? It's like trying to build a house on quicksand. Without that strong foundation of self-awareness, everything else, your career, your relationships, your decisions, becomes unstable. Knowing who you are isn't just about identity, it's about agency. When you know what you stand for, you stop letting others make decisions for you. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You become intentional, and when you're intentional, you become powerful. That power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's quiet, like saying no to a project that doesn't align with your values or walking away from people who don't see your worth. Sometimes it's standing up for yourself in a room where no one else does. Sometimes it's just having the courage to be exactly who you are, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. And let me be clear, this isn't a one-time thing. Knowing yourself is a process, not a destination. Who you are will evolve. It should evolve. Every heartbreak, every success, every failure, every chance you take. These things shape you. But through it all, you have to keep asking yourself, who am I becoming? And is that someone I'm proud of? If you don't do this inner work, the risk is not just losing your path, it's losing your voice. You'll wake up one day and realize you've spent years living a version of life that was never really yours to begin with. And that realization, that's the real heartbreak. So ask yourself, honestly and often, what do I believe in? What makes me feel alive? What am I willing to fight for? These aren't just big questions. They are essential ones, and you deserve to answer them for yourself, not through the lens of expectation, but through the clarity of truth. Because once you know who you are, no one else can define you. Not the world, not your past, not even your fears, only you. Failure is one of the most misunderstood parts of success. Most of us grow up thinking failure is something to avoid, something to be ashamed of, or something that defines us. But the truth is, failure is one of the most powerful tools we have to build a better version of ourselves, if we learn to embrace it. When I say fail fast, rise faster, I don't mean rush into mistakes carelessly. I mean don't be afraid to try, to fall, and to learn quickly. The longer you avoid failure, the longer you delay growth. The sooner you fail, the sooner you understand what doesn't work. And that clarity is priceless. When I first started my career, I faced failure not just in terms of projects that didn't work, but in the deeper sense, rejection, public criticism, moments of intense doubt. I remember being told I didn't have what it takes to succeed in Hollywood because of my accent, my background, or simply because I didn't look like everyone else. Some people assumed my career would stay in one lane, that I couldn't cross over into different industries or markets. I could have taken those rejections personally, and truthfully, sometimes I did. But with time, I learned not to linger in that pain. I allowed myself to feel it, process it, and then move. The key is not to avoid falling. It's learning how to fall, get up, and run smarter the next time. Failure teaches you more than success ever will. Success feels good, but it often doesn't challenge you. Failure, on the other hand, strips you bare. It shows you where your blind spots are. It humbles you. It sharpens you. It forces you to rethink, rework, and rebuild from a stronger foundation. But that only happens when you look at failure as feedback, not as a verdict. Failing fast is about acting, experimenting, and putting yourself out there before you're ready. Because the truth is, you're never going to feel 100% ready. You learn by doing, not by waiting. I've had films tank at the box office. I've had business ideas that didn't go the way I planned. I've taken chances with roles or projects that didn't land the way I hoped. But every single one of those moments taught me something invaluable about the industry, about people, and most importantly, about myself. Each time I failed, I had a choice to let it define me or to let it refine me. I chose the latter, and every time I rose faster because I knew a little more. I had a little more grit, more wisdom, more fire. There's a dangerous myth that people who are successful always had it figured out, that they had some master plan that worked perfectly. That's not true. Most successful people you admire today failed more times than you can count. They just didn't quit. They took every fall as a lesson, not a label. And that's what you have to do too. Don't fear failure, fear not trying. Fear waiting so long for the perfect moment that you never take the leap. Because the people who succeed aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who fall, adjust their crown, and keep going. Failure is part of the process. The faster you embrace that, the faster you move forward. So take the shot, audition for that role, apply for that opportunity, launch that idea. You might fall, you probably will, but when you do, rise faster, not because you have to prove anyone wrong, but because you believe in who you're becoming. And that belief, even when shaken, is what will carry you through. Keep failing, keep learning, keep rising. That's how you win. Self-respect is the foundation of everything you build in your life. Your relationships, your career, your confidence, and your peace of mind. It's the invisible line that defines how the world treats you and how you treat yourself. If you don't respect yourself, it's very hard to expect others to do the same, and that's why self-respect must never be negotiable. It's not something you can compromise to keep people comfortable or to fit into places that were never built for you in the first place. The moment you start trading your self-respect for acceptance, validation, or temporary success, you begin to lose yourself, and once that starts, it's a very slippery slope. In my own life, I've had moments when people expected me to be smaller, quieter, more agreeable, especially in environments where I was the only woman, the only person of color, or simply the outsider. There were times I was told to dress a certain way, speak a certain way, or behave in a way that didn't feel authentic to me, just to be seen as professional or likable. But over time, I realized that saying yes to those things wasn't just about adapting. It was about abandoning parts of myself, and no opportunity, no relationship, no amount of applause is worth that kind of personal erosion. Respecting yourself means knowing your boundaries and standing firm in them, even when it's uncomfortable or when it costs you something in the short term. It means walking away from people who treat you like you're disposable, even if they're influential, powerful, or familiar. It means not laughing at the joke that insults your identity, not tolerating behavior that makes you feel small, and not explaining over and over again why you deserve basic dignity. You don't need to justify your worth. You don't need to dilute your personality to be accepted. The right people, the right opportunities, and the right environments will never require you to compromise who you are. This isn't about arrogance or ego. It's about knowing your value and protecting your spirit. When you have self-respect, you stop seeking constant approval from the outside world. You stop allowing likes, followers, or external applause to define your success. You start defining success by how you feel when you look in the mirror. Proud, whole, and unapologetically you, and that confidence, that self-assurance is magnetic. People sense it, the world responds to it. There will always be moments that test your self-respect, times when it feels easier to just go along with the crowd, to stay quiet, or to please others at your own expense. But those are the exact moments when you must hold the line. Because every time you betray your own values to make someone else comfortable, you chip away at your own inner power, and nothing in this world is worth losing that. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. So set the bar, be the example, show the world what it means to live with integrity, and don't be afraid to be alone if it means staying true to yourself, because temporary loneliness is far better than lifelong regret. When you respect yourself deeply, you attract people who see your worth clearly, and the things that once felt like sacrifices, walking away, saying no, choosing peace, start to feel like victories. In a world that constantly tells you to be more, do more, give more, let this be the one thing you never compromise, your self-respect. Guard it like your life depends on it, because in many ways the quality of your life truly does. In a world obsessed with achievements, milestones, and visible success, it's easy to confuse goals with growth. We're taught from a young age to chase goals, get good grades, land a job, buy a house, reach a certain salary, get married, have kids. And while goals give us direction, they should never become the only measure of progress. Because real growth, personal, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, doesn't always come with a certificate or applause. It happens quietly in the background when you choose to become better rather than just appear successful. That's why it's so important to invest in growth, not just goals. I've achieved a lot in my life: titles, awards, global recognition, but the moments I'm most proud of aren't always the ones on magazine covers or in acceptance speeches. They're the private moments of transformation, when I learned to forgive myself, when I faced my fears instead of running from them, when I unlearned toxic habits and chose to heal. Those moments didn't look like milestones. No one clapped for them, but they were turning points, moments when I evolved into a stronger, wiser version of myself. Goals are external, growth is internal. You can reach a goal and still feel empty if you haven't grown along the way. You can tick every box on your life plan and still wake up feeling lost if you haven't taken the time to understand who you are, what you believe, and what truly fulfills you. That's why we need to stop measuring our worth by how much we've achieved and start measuring it by how far we've come in becoming the person we want to be. Investing in growth means prioritizing the long term over the quick win. It means choosing discomfort now for strength later. It means doing the hard, often invisible work, like building emotional intelligence, learning how to communicate better, developing resilience, or challenging your limiting beliefs. These things don't come with a deadline. You don't complete them and move on. They're part of an ongoing journey to becoming more conscious, compassionate, and capable. Sometimes growth means taking a step back. Sometimes it means saying no to an opportunity that doesn't align with your values, even if it looks good on paper. Sometimes it means leaving behind people, places, or roles that no longer serve your evolution, even when it's painful. Because comfort rarely breeds growth. Growth happens at the edge of challenge, when you step outside of what's easy and familiar and push yourself into the unknown. It also means being a lifelong student. No matter how successful you become, there's always more to learn. Read books that stretch your mind. Surround yourself with people who challenge your perspective. Travel, explore, ask questions, stay curious. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you stop growing, and the world doesn't need more people who think they know everything. It needs more people willing to grow, adapt, and evolve. When you invest in growth, your goals start to serve a deeper purpose. They're no longer just about status or achievement. They become expressions of your growth. You stop chasing things to prove your worth and start building things that reflect it. You begin to lead, create, and live from a place of authenticity, not insecurity. So yes, set goals, dream big, work hard, but don't forget to ask yourself, who am I becoming in the process? Am I growing kinder, stronger, more grounded, more self-aware? Because at the end of the day, goals will come and go, but growth, that stays with you forever. And the most meaningful success comes not from what you do, but from who you become while doing it. There is immense power in using your voice even when it shakes, because your voice is not just sound, it's your truth, your story, your boundaries, your values. And too often we silence ourselves to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, or because we fear judgment. But silence, when it comes at the cost of your truth, is not peace, it's pressure. It builds up over time until you no longer recognize yourself. That's why it's so important to speak up, even when your voice trembles, even when you're scared, even when you think no one is listening. Because the moment you speak your truth, you begin to claim your power. I've been in rooms where I was the only woman, the only person of color, the youngest, the newcomer. I've felt the weight of eyes that questioned whether I belonged. I've been talked over, underestimated, and dismissed. In those moments I had two choices: shrink myself to stay invisible, or use my voice even if it quivered. And every time I chose to speak up, something shifted, not just in the room, but inside me. I became a little braver, a little stronger, a little more myself. Using your voice doesn't always mean shouting or making grand speeches. Sometimes it's saying, I don't agree. Sometimes it's asking for what you need without apologizing. Sometimes it's setting a boundary and standing by it. It could be calling out a microaggression, advocating for a teammate, or telling your story honestly so others feel seen. And sometimes the hardest voice to raise is the one you direct inward, to admit when you're hurting, to ask for help, or to tell yourself that you deserve better. There's a reason your voice shakes when you're about to say something important. It means you're stepping outside your comfort zone. It means you're confronting fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of not being enough. But courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in spite of it. And when you speak up, despite the fear, you show yourself that your voice matters. Every time you do it, your confidence grows, the shaking gets quieter, your words become stronger, and your presence becomes undeniable. You don't need permission to speak your truth. You don't need a perfect script. You don't need to be polished or approved. All you need is the willingness to be honest, and yes, it might feel uncomfortable at first. You might stumble, you might cry, you might even face pushback, but that doesn't mean you were wrong to speak. In fact, those moments are often the most necessary, because they disrupt the silence that allows injustice, inequality, and misunderstanding to thrive. When you use your voice, you create space, not just for yourself, but for others. You give others permission to speak up too. You become a light for someone who's still finding their courage. That's how movements start. That's how change happens, not always with loud speeches, but with honest words spoken consistently, even by one person at a time. Don't wait until your voice is steady. Don't wait until the fear is gone. Don't wait for someone to hand you the mic. Your voice is already enough, and the world needs it. Not a rehearsed, perfect version of it, but the real, unfiltered human version, the one that shakes, the one that breaks, the one that speaks anyway. Because every time you speak your truth, you become more free. And with each word, you remind yourself and others that silence may be comfortable, but it's never where progress lives. So speak, even when it's scary, especially when it's scary. Your voice matters, let it rise. Life moves fast, we're constantly pulled in different directions, by deadlines, responsibilities, expectations, distractions. In the middle of all this noise, it's easy to start living on autopilot, just going through the motions without really asking ourselves, *, is this the life I want to live? *, that's why living intentionally is so important. It means waking up with purpose, being clear about what matters to you, and making choices that align with your values, not just reacting to the world, but actively shaping your place in it. Intentional living isn't about perfection or control, it's about presence. It's about deciding what kind of energy you bring into each room, how you treat people, and what kind of impact you want to make. Not someday, but now. To live intentionally is to ask yourself not just asterisk what asterisk you want, but asterisk why asterisk you want it. It's easy to chase things because society tells you they matter, money, fame, status, but if they're not aligned with your core truth, they'll never bring you real fulfillment. Intentionality means choosing depth over distraction, meaning over approval, purpose over pressure. It means saying no to things that look good on the outside but feel empty on the inside, and it means saying yes to things that nourish your soul, even if they don't make sense to everyone else. But intention alone isn't enough. Life is meant to be lived with passion, with love that is deep, real, and fearless. To love fiercely is to let yourself care deeply, even when it's risky. It means showing up fully for your people, not halfway, not with conditions, but with everything you've got. It means calling your friends when they cross your mind, saying, "I'm proud of you," even if it feels vulnerable, hugging tighter, forgiving quicker, laughing louder. We often hold back our love out of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of getting hurt, fear of not being enough. But love is not something to ration. It's something to pour out generously, because love, real, intentional, fierce love, is the only thing that truly multiplies when shared. Loving fiercely also means loving yourself with the same fire. It means protecting your peace, honoring your truth, and refusing to settle for half love or half effort. It means believing you're worthy of the same care and compassion you so freely give to others. When you love yourself deeply, you raise the standard for every other relationship in your life. You stop begging for crumbs and start expecting full meals. You stop asking for permission to exist and start owning your space. And when you live this way, with intention, with love, you don't just exist. You leave a legacy, not just a legacy of accomplishments, but a legacy of character, the way you made people feel, the lives you touched, the truth you stood for, the kindness you showed when no one was watching. Your legacy is not something that begins when you're gone. It's something you build every day in every interaction with every choice. And the most powerful legacies aren't built through grand gestures. They are built through consistency, compassion, and courage. We won't be remembered for the number of followers we had, the titles we earned, or the things we bought. We'll be remembered for the way we lived, the way we loved, and the way we made people feel. So live with intention, love with your whole heart, and build a life that speaks even when you're no longer here. That is how you leave something that matters. That is how you make this short, beautiful life truly unforgettable.